morning, everybody. This is Jan, and welcome to our second part of Chessable's course, Everything You Need to Know About Chess by Danny Rensch. Did the first part 2 days ago, and we'll go right into explaining what Chessable is, because maybe viewers are new and have no clue. So, Chessable is an online platform where you are able to go through different courses and learn. They have a move trainer, what is it called? Feature built inside where you are, where you get variations presented like exercises, puzzles, and if you know them right away, you will get them probably once again for repetition, and if you know it again right away, then you will be given it like 2, 3, 4 weeks later on, because you already knew it. If you have trouble with a puzzle or a variation, then it will be presented way earlier, like every day, until you get the hang of it and know what it is like. So this makes Chessable quite unique and very enjoyable for learning. So let's go. And as I'm quite new to presenting Chessable courses, I have to check sometimes with the what I'm sharing in Chessable, because last time the first rank was not shown, which was not too good, but still okay because we had videos. Okay, then let's go into the course. So first of all, it is under courses. It is a free course, and I find the free courses here. I move up all the way, and here it is. Okay, first of all, again, short repetition what it is. It is a beginner's course for people who have no clue about chess. They maybe heard what chess is, but everything is explained. Like, what is the chessboard? How do you navigate on the chessboard? What are squares? What are ranks and files? What are the pieces? How do the pieces move? Beginner rules. And basically, once you finished it, you're all covered. Yeah, here it says the language of chess, how to identify pieces, squares, other elements, how each piece moves, how to play good moves in the opening. And that's where we are going to start in the second part today. And basic of tactics, fundamental strategy, and how to deliver checkmate. I'm a Lichess Classical 1750 player. And I should know all of it. But I found out that on part 1, I really learned the expressions rank and file, because I even don't know them in German correctly. I'm native German, so it was nice to get that into my head, ranks and files. If you don't know what it is, please go to part 1. Part 1 is being shown in the YouTube description. You can easily go back and take a look again. Okay, so with that, we are going to start. And as always, once you started a course, as I said, you get variations or puzzles that you didn't get first, or where they say, well, we repeat it once, and if you are able to solve it, then you're good, and we show it to you again in a month. And I do my first review session for the course from what I learned last time now. So I click on review. Okay, and I have 27 variations to review here. Okay, I click on it. And by the way, it is really nice that you can scroll down and see, no, not on this page. Here it is. Leaders. So my name on Chessable is Life Can Be So Nice. And it has a gamification mode. And you get points for answering the puzzles or variations correctly. And Cold Free Octopus did quite some work on this course. He got 989,000 points, and I'm at 4,360, just doing 2 hours on it from last time. But that was not only repeating, so we'll see where I stand after the course today. Okay, so I click on Review, and now I have to go to OBS, which is the software to see what I'm sharing right now. So the first rank is being shown. Let's see. Yes, that looks good today. And now I'm taking a quick look at chat. And this is all okay. And yeah, let's start with the review. So, learning the board ranks, white to play. What shall I do? Squares on the board can be divided. Here we see a lone screen sitting on the third rank. We will learn about Her Highness when we talk about the pieces. For now, to get a better feel for the board, let's try moving her all the way across the third rank to the other side. Okay, this is the third rank. And I move it all the way to the other side, and it was correct, as it seems. The queen shuffles all the way the other side along the rank. Completed. Next variation. Okay, this is now about files, and let's move her all the way down to the other side of the D file. Okay, this is the D file, all the way to the other side. D1, done. All right, so these are the files. Next variation. Diagonals. We have the A1, H8 diagonal. Let's move her along it to the other side, the H8 square. Done. All right, next one. Note that all squares on a given diagonal must be of the same color, light or dark. Okay. If this is too fast for you because you're a beginner, then I really recommend you taking a look at part 1. Again, it's shown in the YouTube video description. Don't hesitate. What shall we do here? Getting to know the squares. Let's practice moving a piece to a given square. Let's start by moving the queen to the D5 square. Okay. D5, D5, here it is. Okay. And if this is also too fast for you, it's because this is a review of what we learned in the first part. Now try moving the queen to the A2 square. A2 is here. Got it. Okay. And you can see the number of reviews goes down, of course, as we solve them. Still 22 to go. Okay. Yep, that was good. Next one. Let's do one more. Find the F7 square for the queen. F7, F7 is this one. Okay, good. Next variation. Let's practice moving the rook up to the C7 square. We learned how the rook moves only horizontally and what's the other word in English? Vertically. Yeah, so C7 square is here. You always see with the arrows in which directions the rook can move. Good. Next variation, the bishop goes to the E5 square. Wonderful, done. Next one, let's move the queen diagonally like a bishop back to the A2 square. A2. Okay. Next variation, the piece takes the most practice getting used to. Let's move the knight up to C6 in its signature L square shape. C6 is here, so one step, and to the left or right. So we need to go to the left. 1, 2, hep. Got it. And you see all the pieces he can reach from here. King can move one step on adjacent squares, only one step. We need to put it to the E3 square. It's here. Love it. And you can always see the experience points I get for the modification mode. Next variation, the pawn can go one step forward. Yeah, and that's good. And now the pawn takes diagonally one step to the side. So I could take here if there would have been a piece, or I take the rook here. But you can never take a piece right in front of you. Pawn can also not go back. 40 experience points, nice. And with the pawn promotion, if a pawn reaches the last rank, for white that is the 8th rank, for black it is the 1st rank, then they can promote. And we should promote it to a queen, I guess, here. And yes, so if the pawn reaches the last rank, you can choose what piece you would like to have. Cannot be a king, cannot be a pawn. Okay, good. Then what is check? Check means to attack the king. I cannot check with my own king, so I need to move the rook. Only way to go is the rook to g6, because there is no obstruction. Here on d1, my own king is in between the rook and the king, the black king, and that doesn't work, so I need to put it here. Check. Next one. What is checkmate? Checkmate is if the king is not able to move out of check. So first I need to put it in check. There are two ways. I can go check on c7, which would be check by the rook. Yeah, but then the opponent's king, the black king, has two squares to move out of check. So that would be b8 and d8, because the rook cannot go diagonally. So that's not the good choice. Then we have the rook to g8, gives check on the 8th rank. And the king covers the 7th rank on b7, c7 and d7. So the black king would be in check and cannot move away or out of check. Yes, worked. See? Here we have it. And by the way, I don't know if you notice, I don't only move, I also give the explanations. So if I'm able to get the to tell the explanations, then I really got the hang of the rule or the info, and really know what I'm doing on the board, and I'm not only moving pieces. Escaping check, black to play. Okay, for escaping check we have three ways, and one is get rid of the attacker, take the attacker, put something in between, and move out of the way. So what can we do here? We can take the attacker, I'm in check by the white rook, yeah, check, and I can take it by taking with the bishop. I can put something in between, the knight, here, it moves in L shape, 1, 1, 2, so it's not in check anymore, and I can move the king out of the way by going to b8. So the best thing here would be to take, because then I have even more material advantage. Here we go. Yep, correct. And next variation, we only have 10 left before we start today's course. White to play, here we have the scholar's mate, it says, and that would be queen to f7. If I do this, we'll read the explanation. No, I give it myself just to learn, it's better. So it's check. And can the queen be taken by the king? No, it cannot, because it's supported by the bishop. Can I put something in between? No, it's directly on an adjacent square, so I cannot put something in between. And can the king move away out of check? And the only free square to move to is e7, and that would be still in check by the queen. So I'm going to check, and it's good, completed. Next one. Fool's mate. Okay, for a one move mate, I need to put it into check first. The only way to check is putting the queen on a h4. And again, can I put something in between? No. Can I take the checking queen? Nope. Can I move the king out of the way? No. So it's checkmate. Yep, good. And mate in one. How can white deliver checkmate in one move in this position? The king protects the, or not protects, but covers the 7th rank. A7 and B7. That's the only two squares the black king could go to. And the 8th rank again is covered by the rook if I go to G8, and then it should be mate. And it is rook G8, checkmate. Be careful. A7 would have been not so good, as we just could have moved the king away. So that is also good. Now next, white to play. Special rule en passant. En passant means if the opponent moves a pawn from the starting position, yeah, this is the starting position always in a chess game. It's either the 7th rank or the 2nd rank for white. And he moves the pawn 2 squares in front of him. If you have a pawn like this, you are allowed to capture it. Yeah, because the black pawn would just take away the chance for you by jumping 2 squares right away. So it's a special rule that allows you to take it while he's going 2 squares. Okay, that's good. And again, if you don't know this, go back to part 1 and check it out to see the rule explanation. Here we have the next special rule, castling. So I just move it, castle done. Now to the other side, castling done, all good. Castling early. This is kind of a rule of the opening, yeah. Get your king to safety. It's in safety if it castled, more or less. Well, of course, there are always exceptions to the rules, but castle early. And for this, you need to know that you can only castle if the king and the rook haven't moved before. The squares, the knight is moving over, yeah, like he's going to this one, are not in check, and the king is not in check by itself. So castle done, not, and what should I do here? It's review the knight. In this position, what is the best knight move white has? Okay, I have 2 knights here, and I see I cannot put the king into check. Then I try the next thing. It's, can I take something? With this knight, I cannot take anything, and with this one, I can take the pawn, but the queen is higher and in quality. It has 9 points, and the knight only 3, so it's a very good choice to take the queen. Well done. So what next? How can white checkmate the black king in this early stage of the game? It's a variation of the scholar's mate that we just saw. So checkmate. Last review session. The king is safest away from the center behind a shelter of pawns. Do you remember the special rule of castling? Yes, I do. And the special rule of castling is what I just explained. They didn't move earlier on. The squares that the white or the king has to travel on are not in check, and the king is not in check by itself. So I'm going to castle here. It should be all fine. Yes. So nothing to review. Your next review of this course is due in 18 hours and 46 minutes. Because I got all right. If I would have made a mistake, the time span would be way shorter. Now we can exit the review part and click on the learn part. What we covered last time was new to Chessable. Start here, you learn about Chessable. You have the introduction to the course and learning the game. All the rules we just covered in the review, and it will directly put me to the opening. In the meantime, I'm still checking if everything is okay on the stream. Yes, that looks good. And let me check chat if there's someone is also up very early. And not well, I have viewers, but nothing in the chat. So, but that is all fine, and thankful to having you with me. So we go to the course and start the learning for today. Learn. Okay, so we have the where I changed it. I'm still checking if you see the first rank. Yes, everything is being shown really well. Okay, so we have the dream opening, it says. We start reading. It's like a book with a board on your side. The dream opening. The opening phase of a chess game starts on the first move and can set to be finished once the rooks are connected. We find out what that is later on. This means all the other pieces will have joined the action by moving off their starting squares on the back rank. The goals of the opening phase of the game are the following. Control the center of the board. The center of the board is usually d5, e5, and d4, e4. Those 4 squares make up the center of the board. Develop all your pieces into the game. That means get them out. Yeah, it's always a bad sign if on move 10, 15, you're still having all your pieces on the back rank. I remember when I was starting to learn chess, I moved all the pawns because that looked nice. And everything was sitting on the back rank. Yeah, and I really would have liked when I started playing chess. I don't say started learning chess because I think I didn't learn chess at the start. I just played. Yeah, and but that is quite normal, I think, also too, if you don't have specialized instruction like this or someone who tells you what to do. Okay, then get your king to safety, usually by castling. We just covered that before. So let's walk through the ideal opening moves and explain them one by one. Okay, we have e4. I click on it. Yeah, a phenomenal first move, controlling central squares and opening lines for development of the bishop and the queen. Yeah, and if the black opponent or goes to d5 or f5, I can I can strike and take away right away with the pawn. So what does the opponent with the black pieces do? He goes to d4. Nope, it's not. Okay. This is interesting. He doesn't cover the the black part. He just goes through the white moves for the opening, which is totally fine for explanation purpose. So, if you are allowed, it's usually a good idea to take the center with both pawns. This opens lines for the dark squared bishop and controls more key central squares. Okay, this is the dark squared bishop. It's now open and free to move on the diagonal. And this is good for getting more space than your opponent. Okay. Then what next? f3. Developing your pieces is essential, as you will learn in my 10 opening rules. Those will come next. The knight moves towards the center, controlling the key central squares. See? This is all about center and getting more space. Next move is knight c3. Likewise, the queen's knight moves towards the center, controlling the central e4 and d5 squares. e4 and d5. The knights are ideally placed. All right. So, and what else? Now the bishop is out. An active square for the bishop, playing a role in controlling the center and allowing room for white to castle kingside. See? Here we have now 2 empty squares and we are ready for castling. Next, bishop b4. Likewise, a great square for the dark squared bishop. As long as we are bringing our pieces into play, we are in a good shape. Okay. Then, queen e2. The queen finally joins the action, supporting her forces safely from behind and introducing the possibility of castling queenside. Now, see that? You can choose which way to castle. In this position is a dream opening for white. It's a dream because black didn't move, of course, and we would have to react otherwise. Of course, black gets to move too, but for illustration purposes, each of white's pieces is on its most active square, controlling the center of the board, and ready to engage in battle. White's next move might be rook e1, bringing the last piece into the middle of the board. Okay. Notice, in order to finish development and connect the rooks, white had to castle. This serves the dual purpose of bringing the king to safety and finishing development. Okay, I think I understood everything, but the cool thing is that I am Danny Rensch is going to explain it to us in a video, I believe, and we are going to take a look right now.
First, the definition of the opening is the start of every chess game. The opening is often considered to be over once both sides have connected their rooks. What that means, if the rooks are connected for white along the first rank and for black along the 8th rank, is that both sides have gotten all of their pieces into the game, and often they're castled, which means their king is safe and their rooks are talking to each other along the respective 1st and 8th ranks. There are 10 tips that I have given beginners for years in order to achieve the goals of the opening. But before we talk about those tips, let's learn what the goals of the opening are. We want to control the center. We want to get all of our pieces into the game. We want to get our king safe, and we want to try to stop our opponent from doing the same. Those 3 goals to the opening can be achieved by the 10 tips I'm going to give you in this video. But let's look at what a dream position might be if we were to get everything we wanted in the opening stage. Take a look at this position, because you just might be dreaming. In this position, white has not only developed every single one of their pieces into the center of the board, where they are potentially the most powerful they can ever be. White has also achieved 2 pawns in the center, which of course help pieces in their goals to control all the most important territories. The queen is sitting safely in support of the central pawns and the pieces. And the white king is ready to get castled, either to the king side or perhaps the queen side. In both cases, we see a position where the rooks are connected and talking along the 1st rank. If white were to play one more move and bring this rook from h1 to e1, you would quite literally see a fantasy position for white on the chessboard. Controlling the center is the most important. This video is about the opening stage of a chess game. Before we dive in, at this point, you should know how the pieces move, the basic terminology that helps describe and define what we do on a chessboard, as well as have an understanding of what check, checkmate, and stalemate are. As long as those things are true, you're ready to learn how to play the opening of a chess game. First, the definition of the opening is the start of every chess game. The opening is often considered to be over once both sides have connected their rooks. What that means, if the rooks are connected for white along the 1st rank and for black along the 8th rank, is that both sides have gotten all of their pieces into the game, and often they're castled, which means their king is safe and their rooks are talking to each other along the respective 1st and 8th ranks. There are 10 tips that I have given beginners for years in order to achieve the goals of the opening. But before we talk about those tips, let's learn what the goals of the opening are. We want to control the center. We want to get all of our pieces into the game. We want to get our king safe, and we want to try to stop our opponent from doing the same. Those 3 goals to the opening can be achieved by the 10 tips I'm going to give you in this video. But let's look at what a dream position might be if we were to get everything we wanted in the opening stage. Take a look at this position, because you just might be dreaming. In this position, white has not only developed every single one of their pieces into the center of the board, where they are potentially the most powerful they can ever be. White has also achieved 2 pawns in the center, which of course help pieces in their goals to control all the most important territories. The queen is sitting safely in support of the central pawns and the pieces. And the white king is ready to get castled, either to the king side or perhaps the queen side. In both cases, we see a position where the rooks are connected and talking along the 1st rank. If white were to play one more move and bring this rook from h1 to e1, you would quite literally see a fantasy position for white on the chessboard. Controlling the center is the most important thing you can do to start a game. Why? Every piece is realizing their full potential when they stand in the center of the board. And every piece, when realizing their full potential, has better options. Options lead to good tactics, and tactics are how we win material and eventually checkmate our opponents. So, in summary, if you were to get everything you possibly could want in a chess game, it might look like this, at least as far as the opening stage goes. White could not do better in the first 10 moves of the game, and as we're going to learn when we see black gets to play 2, you will almost never reach such a fantasy position. But knowing your goal to have pieces on their powerful squares and to control the center is a really good North Star to always shoot for. Back to a game where both sides get to play, yet still focus.
Okay, that was nice. Thank you, Danny. And really well explained, and also with the arrows and highlighting, so that was really good. Now, yeah, you could go through the course by only watching the videos, but I really do think it's better to take some time, go through the written material, and then for repetition, my favorite learning technique is repetition. And so I read the book style, like the words and everything, and then afterwards for seeing if I really understood it, I take a look at the video. Okay, so I close the video part and go to the next session, that is the dream opening practice. Okay, now let's test your memory. Make the best developing moves possible in the same order you just saw in the previous variation. Hint: control the center with pawns, knights before bishops, bring in the queen to prepare the castle queenside. Okay, I think it was e4, then it was d4, then we had the knights, yep, then the bishops. This got me ready for castling kingside. Now the queen for making it ready to go castling queenside. And now I forgot, but luckily it says to prepare to castle queenside. Now I cancel queenside and I got experience points for the gamification mode, and I'm good for the next variation. Okay, so the dream opening, both colors now. Okay, now let's let black move too and see what good opening moves look like in a more realistic scenario. Okay, so again we start with e4, good first move, controlling the center with the pawn and opening lines for the queen and bishop. For the queen, diagonal d1 to h5, and the bishop from f1 to a6. Okay, so now black moves, black follows suit, doing exactly the same. Then knight f3, white develops a piece towards the center and at the same time attacks black's e5 pawn. It's helpful when your opening moves serve multiple purposes. Okay. Knight c6, black develops a piece towards the center and defends the pawn. Makes sense. Knight c3, the other knights come out to play. And also for control of the center. Then we have knight f6. Bishop c4. White develops the bishop to its most active square, controlling the center, and also preparing to castle kingside. And yeah, well, we're having an eye on g8. So just in case the pawn wouldn't be here on f7, then black could not castle because he would move his king to that place. Square, sorry. Bishop b4, attacking my knight. Okay, but the knight is protected by two pawns. I move d3. There are other good moves, such as castling right away, but d3 is good because it bolsters white's center and prepares the development of the dark squared bishop. Yes, now I can move it. And d6, blacks follow suit, so it must have been a good move then. Maybe. Okay, so bishop g5, attacking the knight. White is getting close to finishing development now that most pieces are developed. So I developed my pieces, and the queen is on its original square, and I didn't castle yet. Okay, so black is castling. Both sides up to this point have played standard and good developing moves, and now it's time to round out the opening by getting the king to safety, followed by connecting the rooks. Okay, now we are did the castling, that's fine. Now both sides have castled, fulfilling the crucial principle of getting the king to safety. All that's left to finish development is to connect the rooks by bringing in the queen. Of course, there may be better moves to make instead, depending on the position, which is one of the reasons the opening can be tricky. For instance, an experienced player may recognize white's threat on 8, knight d5. I click on it, let's see. Okay. For instance, an experienced player may recognize white's threat on 8, knight d5 here. I am trying to understand what the threat is. I have a double attack on the knight f6, but it's defended by the pawn and the queen, so that's okay. I can attack the bishop, but it's defended by the king, by the knight c6. So, do I have an advantage here? What's the threat really? Is it just by taking something, or? I'll check moves here. So, let me see what happens if I click on Analysis board. It opens up the Analysis board and it gives me an advantage of 2.69 just by that move. Can I? B6, NH4, PE6, I'm somehow stuck here. Let's close this. And I'm in full screen mode. Are you being able to see this in OBS? Let's see. Yes, you can, but I cannot close it. Okay, so if you're in chat seeing right away why it's the threat, then please let me know. I'm kind of blocked here. Okay, F11 closes the full screen and I can close this here. Okay, let's again go to the full screen mode. Seite Vollbild, okay. So again, I have this, I have that, and depending what it does is, for instance, an experienced player may recognize white's threat of 895. That's funny, I really don't get it. But what is the score, I'd say, the evaluation here, engine loading. Here, black has an advantage. And if I move the knight to It's black to move, so why is that an advantage then? I don't get that one. I will ask Yuritsa to explain it to me if no one in chat does it. I'm so sorry, guys, but that is what it is. Okay. So I need to go back here and see. So no one in chat says I got it and that's the thread and that's why. But here's an in-between move. I need to close this again. Hold on. F11 and closing this one. Now I'm in again. Full screen. Full screen. There it is. So, yeah, it was my turn. I castled. And then there is an in-between move for black, which is not shown here, but I have a threat of knight d5. Knight d5 for white. I really don't get it. So I can go to the comments. Maybe someone had the question before, and we'll take a look at that. Comments help. Okay. The dream opening, both colors. No, there's no comment on that one yet. Okay, so again, I'm going to ask Yuritsa to find out what this is about. Okay. And I will explain it in another session, upcoming session, or I write it into the comments. Yeah, I'll probably write it into the comments. That's probably best. Okay. So closing this page again, and again full screen, and we can move on. Okay, so yep, we are now continuing. However, the point we want you to take away is that as a rule of thumb, when the queen moves into the game and the rooks are connected, the opening is done. Okay, so basically, if we move the queen to e2, we have two connected rooks. Connected rooks are when they are defending each other. Yeah, when nothing is in between them. Okay. So let's see what Danny says about that. And we are going to let the video play.
Focused on our goals of controlling the center, developing pieces, and getting our king safe, let's see what a real game might look like with both sides doing their best. Starting out with a king pawn makes sense for both sides. Developing a piece to both attack and then defend makes total sense. White continues to bring out pieces, as does black, and eventually we get a position with both sides having developed all four minor pieces and gotten their kings safe to start a game. If we want to continue toward the goal that I outlined of connecting the rooks, we can see both sides put their queens off of the first and 8th ranks, respectively, in order to make sure that our rooks can communicate. While looking at this position, we might say it's at the end of the opening or the early stages of a middle game. Essentially, both sides have played smart moves and are off to good starts. We've now done enough to talk about how we want to get our pieces into the game, control the center.
Okay, then here, if I now I get it. I was stupid. Okay, so it's already outlined by the queen move here. So I castled. It's black's move, and I can go to the e7 square with the queen. And if that happens, I of course have a threat. The threat then is the knight to d5. And now the knight threatens to take the queen on e7. The queen has to move, and then I gained tempo probably. What that is comes in later. But okay, here, let me take a look again. Now both sides have castled. All that's left to finish development is to connect the rooks by bringing out the queen. Of course, there may be better moves to make instead, depending on the position, which is one of the reasons the opening can be tricky. For instance, an experienced player recognizes white's threat on. Okay, here I think it would be nice if they give a text info, and I didn't take a look at the red arrow. Okay, so that is solved. No comment, no need to ask Yuritsa, and we can continue. Okay, so we are now at Danny's 10 opening rules. He has 10 rules for the opening that he's been teaching students for decades. Now that we understand the goals of the opening, let's talk about them. Develop, develop, develop. So those are the first 3. And in my classical games, I notice sometimes I don't follow that rule. So it's nice to get another reminder that development is kind of very important. Using your full army is important enough to merit 3 spots on the list. In chess, teamwork makes the dream work. Involve your entire army for full effectiveness. Okay, develop means getting the pieces out, what we just saw. Then control the center. The center is the most important strategic area of the board to control and occupy. From there, your pieces have the best scope for the rest of the board. Center are these central squares here. Then don't move the same piece twice. Okay, because if I move it twice, I'm slower in development because I need to get my full army out. Okay. Get castled early. You can castle as early as move 4, as you see in this variation. This is a good idea because the action often takes place in the center of the board, meaning the king is most often safer on the edge behind the cover of pawns. Yeah, we got that done early on too. Then don't bring out the queen too early. The queen is the most valuable piece, so it pays to keep her at home until the big guns are needed. Otherwise, she may become a target. Makes sense? Then develop a plan. That is something I have trouble with, I know, because sometimes I just make opening moves that I know that work, and then I'm kind of out of a plan and don't know what to do. And that takes time to find out, and it's just better to, well, have a plan right away, I guess. This one is slightly more advanced because it's about where specifically to put your pieces. Mastering this will come with experience while following the other rules. You should be paying attention to what your opponent's doing and put your pieces on effective squares accordingly. This leads us to rule 9. And for develop a plan, I have a saying, and the saying is, or I read it somewhere, it's better to play with a bad plan instead of no plan. Okay, then rule 9 is follow rules 1 to 8, and try to stop your opponent from doing the same. It is so easy to get lost in your own ideas and neglect your opponent's. Also something that happens very often to me. I plan an attack and I'm only thinking about my moves, and I totally forget that, black also has a plan. And that is not the best way for me to play. As we've seen, the best opening moves are multi-purposed. Not only can they improve your position, but obstruct your opponents. Doing so is the best way to finish the opening with the best possible position. And last rule, number 10, is connect the rooks. Don't proceed with your plan of attack until your pieces are developed. Your rooks are connected and ready to swing into the action. Now play through the moves in this variation, and for each move stop and consider the role it plays in following these rules. Okay. E4, controlling the center. E5, controlling the center. Knight F3, developing, well, preparing castling and attacking the pawn. The first, here, D6. Okay. D6, he says, is suboptimal. The first suboptimal opening move. Although it's not blundering anything, blundering means to, well, do such a bad move that your opponent gets a real advantage. Although it's not blundering anything, it blocks in black's dark squared bishop. It blocks in black's dark bishop. Yes, he cannot move further. Those 3 are, well, blocked for the bishop, and he's restricted in movement. And it's preventing it from developing to an active square. Okay, so bishop c4, most active square for the white bishop or light squared bishop. Knight f6, getting ready for castling. I always say cancelling, but that's totally wrong. So ready for castling and taking care of the center and attacking the e4 pawn. Okay, castling, And that was one of the rules, of course. Knight b to d7. And here again, we get a red circle. So it's again restricted in movement. This move is blocking the development of the light squared bishop. This means more moves are required to get these pieces into the game. And more moves means you're losing time. And losing time gives your opponent an advantage. Knight c3, again, center, and getting out of the opening position, starting position. Bishop e7, the only square he could go to because he's blocked, and getting ready to castle. d3, supporting the bishop, supporting the pawn, getting the space for the dark squared white bishop. So he can go on this diagonal, that's all fine. Now he's castling, following Danny's rules. Bishop e3, developing the bishop, getting it more space, control of the center, all good. a6, this move does nothing whatsoever to help develop black's pieces. It's not taking care of the center, and yeah, this is just a not so good move. Then we have queen e2, and it's developing the queen, connecting the rooks. Just read what he says. Once again, white has played logical moves that observe the goals of the opening and follow Danny's rules. Conversely, black has played a few moves which hinder their own development. Several more moves are necessary from the black side to finish developing. For this reason, white has an advantage out of the opening. Rule number 9 hasn't come into play as much as there is little tension between the pieces, allowing each side to follow their respective opening plans. What was Rule 9? Does anybody remember? Let's check. Follow rules 1 to 8 and try to stop your opponent from doing the same. Lovely. Okay, so the better the opening rules are followed, the better our position will be in the middle game, and the better prepared our pieces will be to attack and eventually checkmate the opponent. Okay, I think I got it, and yeah, I think it might be nice to really memorize all 10 rules. I hope this is being put into the review section. Remember, from the start of the stream, there's a review, and so it comes from short-term memory into long-term memory. Let's take a look at the video for this section of the chapter 2, the opening.
And get our king safe. And I think I've kept you waiting long enough before delivering my 10 tips in order to make sure you can almost always achieve those goals. Here are my 10 tips. The first 3 might surprise you. Develop, develop, develop. Why do I list the same rule 3 times? Because what you're going to find out is that it's easy in chess to get distracted, to think we see a squirrel, and to lose our focus on the goal of making sure that every one of our pieces wants to play. If you get all your pieces in the game, you're doing great. Rule number 4, control the center. You've already seen that I've developed the pieces for both sides to attack the center multiple times. The center of the board gives our pieces the most options. Options means flexibility and power can lead to good tactics and tricks that win material and help us win the chess game. Our 5th rule is don't move a piece twice, at least not before move 10. It might sound a lot like develop, 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 but it's reminding you not to get distracted by the squirrels running around your front yard of the chessboard. Get all of your pieces in the game before you move anybody for a second time. Rule number 6 is to get castled early. Many people try to get castled before move 5, at least before move 10, but often if you haven't gotten your king safe by move 15, you might start getting in trouble because the action is going to be heating up in the center of the board if both sides know rule number 4, which is to control the center. Rule number 7 is don't bring your queen out too early. The queen is the most powerful and valuable piece. If she starts playing with the kids and getting attacked all over the chessboard, you might find that you lose the queen before the game has really even begun. Don't bring the queen out too early or you might regret it. Rule number 8 will be one that we see when we show two of the most famous openings, including the Queen's Gambit. Shout out to the Netflix hit series. Rule number 8 is about developing a plan and not just a piece. A slightly more advanced rule to build on your first 3 tips. Think about where you're putting your pieces. Think about where your opponent is putting their pieces. If you know you should control the center and get your king safe, try to be thinking about those plans before you're just focused on getting the pieces out of their starting position. Rule number 9 is to follow all of the first 8 rules and stop your opponent from doing the same. In many cases, we're only focused on ourselves, whereas chess is the ultimate teacher that you have to play against your opponent. Watch out for their threats. They might be breaking the opening rules, and you might need to deal with it, while only focusing on your own plans could get you in trouble. So again, stopping your opponent from doing the same, knowing what those first 8 rules are, is rule number 9. Rule number 10 is don't stop until the rooks are talking. Connect the rooks before you lose your focus or get distracted. Especially if pawns and pieces start getting traded, your rooks are going to want to grab the open files. If your rooks aren't connected, and if your king isn't safe, you may not be in best position to fight for the newly opened lines on the chessboard. Those 10 tips should get you excited for the specific chess positions I'm going to show you now for the rest of the video. And let's try to count how many times one of those 10 tips occurs in each one of the openings and chess moves that I'm going to show you for the remainder of our video. With our goals set and our 10 tips in our pocket, we're going to see some...
Okay, thank you. I am Danny Rensch, and I don't know about you, but I really like the way that Chessable is presenting this with the book style, and then having the videos to see if you got everything from the first run through. For me, again, repetition is a super nice way of learning. And yeah, we are good for now. And let's go to the next chapter. Not chapter, but section within the chapter. Okay, continue. So, here we are. Leave the queen at home. Black's move is 1 d5. That's the answer. The Scandinavian defense. This opening doesn't have the best reputation because it usually results in Black's queen coming out too early. This can sometimes quickly lead to disaster, as we will see here. Black is trying to get the queen out first. This very often backfires, as we will see in this example. Your move is e takes d5. E takes d5. Okay, take it. While this move neglects development and moves the same piece twice, it adheres to rule number 9. Sometimes you need to respond to what your opponent does first and foremost, and capturing a pawn to lure Black's queen is a good idea. Okay, so what happens next? First I have to repeat. So here I have to take to lure out the queen, and it got out. Okay, now my next move is knight c3. It attacks the queen. A logical move, both developing a piece towards the center and attacking the queen. Doing so means Black will need to spend a move retreating and not developing their pieces. White to play. I need to find out, and I remember that was the rule 1 to 8 was preventing the opponent to do the same. So I can prevent it from developing further by attacking the queen right away. So, and now Black moved to the queen to c6, and it's my move, or White's move here, was bishop b5. And it was a tragic mistake. Just like that, in view of a deadly pin, a tactic which we will learn about in a future chapter. The queen cannot move and expose the Black king to attack, so White is winning the queen and the game. Okay, if the queen likes to not being taken, it has to take the attacker, but the knight is protecting the bishop, so we would have lost 3 points, but gained 9 points, so which leaves us with +6. That is a good change. So, and it's not allowed to move away, because the bishop gives check to the king then, and you're not allowed to put yourself into check. Okay, the queen cannot move and expose the black king to attack, so white is winning the queen in the game. White will win the queen 9 points in exchange for just the bishop 3 points. Let this be a cautionary tale about what can happen if you bring out your queen too early. Okay, let's see the video about it. What does he say?
Some different examples of both following and breaking the rules in the opening, along with getting a preview into 2 of the most popular openings of all time. To start, let's see what happens if someone breaks the rules. Let's say that white starts out with e4, and we already saw a great example of black following suit, leading to our 4 knights Gioco Piano. Sometimes players early get excited about using their most powerful piece, the queen. Playing d5, while technically an opening called the Scandinavian, can often get beginners in trouble. After capturing d5, the queen entering too early, she immediately starts getting attacked by the white pieces. If you don't understand what to do here, you might move the queen to safety on c6 and immediately lose the first lady to bishop to b5. Here the bishop attacks the queen, and with the king sitting behind it, this is a pin, something we're going to learn about in later videos of this series. The queen is lost right where she stands to no more than a bishop. Losing a queen 9 for a bishop 3 is not a good way to start a chess game. This is a callback to the rule, don't bring your queen out too early in a chess game. Let's see an opening that's a good...
Okay, that was nice, and I understood everything, so we can, and I hope you did too, of course. So we can move on. And here we have the repetition before we are able to move on. And you see the repetition is not only giving the moves or the positions in a, what's it called in English? Right after the other, but it also jumps back and forth. So this was to take it to lure out the queen. It worked. So white to play, I played, and now it should bring me, it's internet connection here, I think, yeah. It's moving. No, I'm sorry, it's, I have to put my move here. Okay, it's the knight, of course, to attacking and then bringing out the queen. Okay, and it's always 3 times, so 3 times into short-term memory hopefully brings it to long-term memory. Okay, take, attack, pin. Okay, well done, Jan. So next variation is early castling in the Ruy Lopez. Now let's see one of the oldest and most common openings at all levels, the Ruy Lopez or Spanish opening. Pay special attention to how opening principles are observed, especially rule number 5, castling the king early. Let's see if you can learn and remember the first moves of this ancient opening. Okay. White's move, e4, a perfect move, controlling the center and making way with the queen and the bishop. We already got that. So again, my way to learn, repetition, it's e4. Black's move is e5. I click on it again, so it was e5 from e7 to e5. From e7 to e5. Your move now is knight f3. As we already seen, this move does many things. Develops a piece, the knight, controls the center, brings the king 1 move closer to castling to safety, and attacks a pawn. Okay, I repeat it, so it gets into long-term memory. And this is something that I do frequently. it seems that it concentrates on white's move, which is nice, but sometimes this is too fast for me to understand what black just did. So I usually click back on this move and see what it does. It says black defense, yes, and center control and developing a piece. That's all nice. And then my move was bishop b5. And what does it say? This is the starting position of the Ruy-Lopez opening, which has been played hundreds of thousands of times. In addition to developing a piece and preparing to castle, the point of this move is to attack black's knight, an important defender of black's center. In this way, the bishop moves indirectly controls the center. Okay. Because if the knight moves later on, or if it's been taken, the center is weakened for black, of course. Okay, so I need to remember this move. Okay, got it. And again, first I look at the black move. It is developing a piece, center control, attacking the pawn, and making black one move closer to castling. That is nice. So my move is now short castling, kingside castling. White has already castled on move 4 and is looking forward to central action. Note that we can afford not to defend the e4 pawn for now. Yeah, it can be taken now. Yeah. After knight takes e4, white has rook e1. Attacking the knight and taking a look at an X-ray look at the pawn on e5. And then we would have a double attack on this one, on the pawn, from the knight and the rook. It has only one defender, so we should be able to take. And black cannot defend both the e4 knight and the e5 pawn, as I just explained. For example, after the knight moves knight f6, goes back, again, never move a piece twice. That was also one of the rules. White can take the pawn knight e5, and here white is doing very well. Again, if black takes with the knight on c6, yeah, we can just take with the rook. Okay. White to play. It was castling. White to play. Now we should do the whole sequence. Okay, I put this one out. And then it was the knight. Here I was bringing out the bishop. And now castling. Okay, I need to repeat it again. Okay, it was the pawn, knight, bishop, and the castling. Of course, we are tending to just repeat the moves without thinking. So I recommend that you are telling yourself why you are moving the pieces like that. So you don't only remember the moves, but also the reasons why. Okay. Nice. So again, we take a look at the video for the Ruy-Lopez. Let's see what Danny says.
Good example of how to play, one that doesn't lose our queen early. If white plays e4 and black plays e5, both sides can develop with purpose, white to attack a pawn and black to defend a pawn. If white were to play the move bishop to b5, we've reached a Spanish or Ruy-Lopez position, an opening that has literally been played hundreds of thousands of times. Black might play the move knight to f6, and white can now get castled as early as move 4. Getting castled before move 5 would certainly align with the 5th tip that I gave you in my 10 tips to achieve your opening goals. This is a good snapshot to take and remember as an early and good starting position for both sides in the Ruy-Lopez game. Let's continue by looking at openings that are good for both sides to not...
Okay, thank you, Danny. And we see that we are 50% through the opening. What does come? We have some more. And we do this today. Let's see the next one. Okay, learn the Queen's Gambit. Your move is 1 d4. d4 like e4 is a fantastic first move. It controls the center with a pawn and prepares the development for white's dark squared bishop. Here we have that one. Okay. Next, I have to do the first move. Okay. So what did black do? I click again on d5. One of black's most common replies, following suit by occupying the center with a pawn right away. Okay. Then my move is c4. White lunges forward with the second pawn towards the center of the board and threatens to capture black's d-pawn. Makes sense. Next. First I have to repeat it. Queen's Gambit. This is the move order. Okay. So what did black do first? I always need to check that. Click on e6. It moved its pawn from e7 to e6. Black decides not to capture on c4. Could have done it. As after capturing e4, white will recapture on c4 with the bishop. Here I have it. Okay. And as has excellent control of the center with both pawns. Instead, black opts to defend their central pawn with 2e6, the move they just did here. This is called the Queen's Gambit declined. Okay, was not accepted. Now my next move is knight c3. As normal in the Queen's Gambit, white brings out their queenside pieces first, putting pressure on black's center. Okay. And again, I first read what happened because of black's move. Black played knight f6. Black in turn develops a piece and adds more defense to their center. And also one more step for making the castling available for black. White's move now is bishop g5, developing a piece, attacking, and this indirectly again takes care of the center. So as we saw in Lopez, it's often a good idea to attack an enemy piece which is guarding the center. In addition to developing a piece, this is one of the purposes of bishop g5. Okay, get it done. And what did black do? Played bishop e7. Black wisely supports the f6 knight and develops their last kingside piece and is ready to castle. All right, understand it. Your move is 5e3. Okay. Preparing to develop the light squared bishop and supporting the center. All right. Got it? What did black do? Castling, which makes sense. He prepared for it. My move, white's move now is knight f3. Knight f3 from the g1 starting position. In just a couple of moves, white will be castled and both sides have done their part to control their square for the center of the center. White has just a bit of pressure on black's position because of the extra pawn in the center of the board. That is c4. But both sides have played good moves and can look forward to a balanced game. Alrighty. Okay, I think it was the knight move that came. Yes. White to play. Oh my goodness, now I need to remember all the moves. And this is, to me, also the fun of chess. That, you have to remember things. I like doing that actually, but I have trouble sometimes. And there are also many moves to remember, and then you mix it up. So it's nice to have a program like Chessable that helps you remembering it, of course. So let's go. The Queen's Gambit started with the d-pawn on e4. Okay. Now I think it was the pawn on c4 to attack black's pawn in the center. He defends. That was the Queen's Gambit declined. Accepted would have been if he would have taken the pawn on c4. That's good. So what was my next move? I think it was developing the knight on the queen side. Yes. White to play. I think it was attacking the knight with the bishop. Correct. And it was for indirectly weakening the center of black. getting ready to cancel for black here, developing the bishop. Here my next move was to put out the knight. Ah, look at this. It says alternative. So there's an alternative move, and that means it wouldn't be a bad move, but there's another move that it wants for now showing the queen's gambit. It was e3. Yes, it was. Okay. White to play, cancelled. Again, I said cancelled, castling. And here we go, c3 now. I got 20 experience points, and to get it into my long-term memory, I need to repeat it again. So let's do the moves. Opening, center control, attacking and center. Queen's gambit declined. Then I'm developing pieces on the queen side with center control. And white to play. Here I was attacking the knight and developing the bishop. Here this time I make the right move. It's e3. That is fine. And now the knight. Congratulations, you've completed your daily goal, 1 hour. Great job, keep it up. That's why, the reason why it came up, because in the general settings I said that I want to spend 1 hour each day with Chessable. And if it notices that you reached that 1 hour, it says, well done, great job, keep it up. So it's motivating to continue. Okay, so we did that. Next variation. And before we start that, we're going to watch the video of Learn the Queen's Gambit. But first I take a look into the chat, just in case somebody said something to me. And I see, nope, that's not the case. So don't hesitate if you'd like to let me know something or have a question, just go into chat and I take a look occasionally and see what's happening there. Okay, so now I play the video.
Not only know, but to play. Have you ever heard of the Queen's Gambit? Perhaps you're actually here because of the Netflix hit series. Let's see what those moves are on the chessboard. Rather than starting with a king pawn, white starts with the queen pawn. After d5 and c4, we are actually in the early stages of the Queen's Gambit, both sides developing and trying to attack the center. Black often defends that pawn, as capturing the pawn would allow white to get a big center. Remembering the basic tips we learned, giving white control of such an important area of the board may not be worth a pawn to black, especially given that that pawn could be lost very soon. Because of that, experienced players more often than not actually choose e6 to defend the stronghold in the center rather than to capture that seemingly free pawn. Here white then develops with a purpose, double attacking the pawn on d5, and black follows suit, developing with a purpose right back, double defending the pawn on d5. If we talk about one of my later tips, which is not just to develop your pieces, but to develop with plans and purpose, we are seeing that in full force in a Queen's Gambit. White continues to develop with purpose. The bishop comes to g5, which not only attacks the knight, therefore indirectly increasing white's control over these squares that the knight potentially defends.
And sorry, I have to interrupt here because something very cool is about to happen. I also have a look at our subscribers number, and I saw that we just reached 4,989. So we're very close to having 5,000 subscribers, and that is a major moment in our channel history and makes Syriza and I really, really proud. It's so cool to have you all aboard and that you're following along. And it really means the world to us, as I said in an earlier video when we had 2,500 subscribers. So let me refresh if we already made the 5,000. No, it's stuck at 4,998. So I'll see probably in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe we made that major milestone. Super, 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 super great.
Also puts a pin of the knight to the queen, meaning the knight cannot move without the queen being lost. Because of that very purposeful developing move, black develops with purpose right back. The bishop to e7, while seemingly passive, actually unpins the knight so that that knight might be free to move and defend the center, given that a bishop trade is totally fine for black. It also prepares to get castled. White might play a move like e3. Black indeed could get castled. Here comes knight to f3, and if we take a snapshot, much like we did at the starting position of the Ruy Lopez, this is one that you should certainly remember as a very good start for both white and black. White is playing a Queen's Gambit. Black is playing a Queen's Gambit declined, choosing not to capture the pawn as I showed you earlier, and both sides are off to a great start and one of the most popular openings of all time, even before the hit Netflix show. We've seen a couple of great openings.
Alrighty. So, and while we watched the video, what happened? We now have 5,002 subscribers. I don't know who was number 5,000, but thank you. And of course also to 5,001 and 5,002 and everyone else. It's really, really super cool. But let's continue. Okay, so, I was one step too early, but yeah, I clicked too early. Can I go back here now? No, it doesn't seem like it, so I need to find out what black to play. So here we have a scholar's mate waiting for us with the queen taking f7, and I have to prevent this. So how can I prevent this? I have several moves I can play. I can play bishop g6. So the queen cannot take on f7, giving mate. Would be okay. I can play pawn d5. Well, it doesn't make sense. It's not, well, it's defended by the queen, but I could just take because the d5 square is always defended by either the pawn or the bishop. So that would lose material and weaken my center, of course. So I won't play this one. What else can I do? I can play queen to e7, which would break a rule, bring out the queen too early, but it would defend the f7 pawn. Can I do anything else? Nope. Yeah, I could play knight to h6, because with this L move the knight then would defend the f7 pawn. But what will I do here? I will probably play g6, because then the queen has to move twice. And we learned in the top 10 rules from Danny for the opening that it's not good to move it twice. So I'm going to play that and see what happens. Yep, it was correct move. So let's see. White moves queen f3. White persists with the second checkmate threat on f7. What? White's move queen f. Okay. I need to click with that off, of course. Okay, that's the reason why I always go back to the black move, to the move that is done earlier on. That had been done earlier on, because this had been presented right away, and then I don't understand why there's checkmate threat. So first here, that would make sense, of course. White persists with the second checkmate threat on f7. Black must respond. And here it says knight f6. It's blocking the white queen from checkmating. Black cleverly develops a piece towards the center and blocks the checkmate threat. This is the most efficient way to prevent scholar's mate. If white insists on an early attack, black play through the rest of the moves to see how it can easily backfire on them. Okay, let's see. Black to play. This was the move to play out of the reasons we had. Here I had this move to forcing the queen back. And okay. So black to play again. This one, it's all repetition to get the moves into your head. And here we have the follow-up moves. Now the knight comes in with an attack on the queen, forces her to move yet again, while the knight takes up a more aggressive post in the center of the board. queen goes to d1. The queen is sadly forced home after my move here from c6 to d4. It was attacked. It has to move again. It chose to move to its original square. Let's count how many moves it did. It went from here to h5, then to f3 and back. So 3 moves to go back to the original square and just helping black to develop its pieces. So bishop takes g4. With the support of black's f6 knight, black is able to capture a pawn with yet another attack on the queen. Things are looking very bad for white at this point. Knight e2, knight takes, or knight f3 check. The knight comes even further into white's position and delivers a check. There's only one move for the white king, the only safe square for the king, and now we have a wonderful checkmate delivered by the black bishop and checkmate. The knight and bishop work well together to give checkmate on the white's king. This is a logical outcome on an opening where white got too ambitious with an early attack involving the queen. But why is it checkmate? Let's see. Can I take the attacker? No, I cannot. Can I move out of the way? Taken, taken, taken. No, I cannot move out of the, taken by the bishop, of course. So can I place one of my pieces in between the attacking piece? No, I cannot, because the rook cannot move diagonally and the pawns cannot move sideways. So that's checkmate. Nice. Let's see what Danny says in the video. Let's see.
Ones that certainly follow the 10 tips I gave you that'll help you achieve those 3 goals we started out with. Develop your pieces, control the center, and get castled. Let's go back to seeing some ways that it could go wrong. In the first video of the Everything You Need to Know About Chess series, I showed something called the Scholar's Mate. It starts with the move queen to h5. It attacked the pawn and attacked this very weak pawn on f7. In that first video, I showed you what happens if black first defends the pawn correctly, but then makes the huge mistake of knight to f6, allowing checkmate in just 4 moves. This is how white could win in 4 moves and how black can go terribly wrong. But as I pointed out in my 10 tips, bringing the queen out early is usually not a good idea. So what happens if black knows how to stop this? The first thing black often does is the move g6. This move both attacks the queen and stops the queen from checkmate. But maybe white is stubborn, so they head back to f3, renewing the threat of checkmate on f7. As long as black doesn't play a bad distracted move, allowing checkmate, any type of natural developing move like knight to f6 would stop this threat. But what if white wants more? What if white is so obsessed with checkmate, neglecting all the principles I gave, like develop, don't move a piece twice, don't bring your queen out early, don't get careless to your opponent's threats. White is breaking all of those rules right now. And if they play one more very bad move because they're so obsessed with checkmate, everything can turn around. This move g4 has a purpose. The idea, again, if black were to play a bad wasted move, would be to attack this knight with a pawn, either winning the beast where it stands or once again delivering the checkmate on f7. The problem with g4 is, once again, we're not developing pieces. We've already lost several moves by moving our queen all around the board, and black has an ability to fight for the center, a tip we gave, and develop rapidly to put white in a world of hurt. The move d5 is rather brilliant. It attacks the bishop, forcing white to deal with a piece, and after white captures the pawn, it unleashes the secondary threat, which was not just to attack the queen with the knight, but actually use the bishop that was opened the moment we played the move d5, unleashing the bishop on c8. After knight d4 and bishop takes g4, white is in huge trouble. They wasted so many moves with the queen that black is actually up 3 moves in development. The queen is nearly trapped, and one more fatal blunder that actually has happened in games before causes a forced checkmate. The move knight to e2 would block the bishop from winning the queen, but allow the fatal knight to f3 check, king to f1, and then bishop to h3, check and mate. Note that the king is attacked. It cannot move to e1 or g1 because of our noble steed on f3, and there's no way to interpose or capture the bishop on h3. This is a great example of why you can't just carelessly break opening principles and bring your queen into the game. To stick with some obvious points, I want to really...
Nice. Thank you, Danny, again. And for me, it's really interesting because I have not gone through the course before. And as you see, I try to explain for myself what's happening. And if I watch the video, then it's nice that Danny is, well, repeating what I said, more or less, but in more eloquent words. But basically, I think I got the idea behind it. Okay. Let's take a look at chat. That is all fine. And yeah, let's continue. Breaking principles when necessary. But do I have to repeat stuff here? No, this is all good. Okay, so let's see. We have a black move. It is queen h4 in this position. Oh, black all of a sudden swings their queen out, attacking our central pawn. That was not okay, I guess, because we had the rule, don't bring your queen out too early. We didn't expect this. If we disregard our opponent's move and continue on autopilot, we might miss an opportunity. White has played two standard opening moves. 1, e4, 2, knight f3. And it would be easy to play another developing move on autopilot, but our opponent has given us an opportunity we should not miss. Your move is knight takes h4. Yes, the queen is under attack. It puts itself in a bad place because it could be taken. That is what's called a blunder. So you didn't pay attention what your opponent can do in the next move. And yeah, you were able to attack the pawn, of course, but you didn't pay attention of the knight that your queen can be taken in the next move. Okay. That's right, we can simply capture the queen. We move the same piece twice, but it's clearly worth it if we win this much material. So I moved the knight twice, but this big advantage is worth the breaking of the rule, of course. So we could continue following opening principles by developing another piece and defending our pawn with knight c3. Yeah. However, we have a much better option, and that, of course, is taking the queen. White to play, so get it into our memory. Take. Its queen is worth 9 points, and here the knight is worth 3 points. But it cannot be even retaken. So this is a very good move to play. Next variation. But first we, of course, see the video for breaking principles when necessary from them.
Reiterate that while we've seen great examples of opening play and we have some tips to help guide us, some really good examples of why we shouldn't go for cheap tricks, we also just have to pay attention to our opponent's threats, especially at the beginner levels, where not everyone is going to be following these tips or keeping the North Star of our opening goals in mind. Sometimes rule number 9 is as obvious as just develop, and if your opponent plays something really bad, you can break a principle, like queen to h4. If we were focused solely on the principles of never moving a piece twice, we might actually defend the queen's threat of the e4 pawn with a move like knight to c3. That's not the worst move on the board. You develop a piece and you defend the pawn on e4, so you also develop with a purpose. But there's a much better move, a much more obvious move here for white, to simply take the queen on h4. I show this very obvious and basic example to remind you that no matter what we do in terms of giving you tips, helping you have guiding principles, and making sure you have some North Stars to guide you when the seas might get rough, just remember that every move you have to ask yourself, why did my opponent go there? And is there a way for me to take advantage of that move? That example of taking a free queen as early as move 3 might be as simple as it gets in terms of punishing our opponent's mistakes. Congratulations. You now know.
Well, not yet. Okay, so but basically we can watch it because I think it was the final video before we go to the reviews. I wanted you to understand that we went through the Ruy Lopez and the Queen's Gambit openings, and I have to admit I already forgot the Ruy Lopez, so that is something I have to look up later on. And you can do so too by just rewinding the video and going to the place where that started. So I'll definitely do this later on, but maybe it comes in the review section. We see. First, I'd like to finish the video by Danny.
More about the opening stage than 99% of beginner chess players.
Congratulations.
As early as move 3 might be as simple as it gets in terms of punishing our opponent's mistakes. Congratulations. You now know more about the opening stage than 99% of beginner chess players.
Yes.
You've learned some famous opening names like Ruy Lopez, Gioco Piano, and the Queen's Gambit. You've learned the 3 most important goals: control the center, develop your pieces, and get your king safe. And you even have 10 tips that very clearly remind you of how to get there. We hope you enjoyed this video and that you feel confident that you are ready to start and win your chess games. And we will see you around playing chess on chess.com.
Thank you, Danny. That wraps up the chapter from the informational instructional part, but we have reviews to do, so we do this before we close today's stream. So regardless of the first moves, you should always castle early to get your king to safety, which move simultaneously prepares castling and develops a piece to control the center. Yeah, I cannot castle with the bishop in between the king and the rook. So here we have several moves. So if I go bishop to h6, it's been taken by either the rook, either the knight or the pawn. Not a good move. I can put him into check, but then he just plays pawn c6, and I'm forced to move twice if I don't like it to be taken. So that's also not a good alternative. Then I could put it to c4. It will be taken by the pawn. Not a good idea. And then I have 2 moves left, which is d3 or e2. So which one will I choose here? If I put it to e2, it's kind of cramped and doesn't have a lot of spaces to go, options to go. If I put it on d3, it has the diagonal f1 to a6, and it also opens up the diagonal from d3 to h7. If I put it here, it would protect the knight, of course, but yeah, to me it looks like this would be a good move, and let's see if that's correct. Yes, it was the correct move. Nice. Regardless of the first moves, castling develops piece control of the center. Okay, and now it's white to play. And now I think I should be ready to castle. I could also develop a piece, but here I think castling is fine. Yes. Okay, so bishop d3 was a very logical developing move, adding control over the central light squares, and we can add we can castle next move. Oh, I forgot that. Yeah, here, if I put it here, it also has the central square covered. And if I move it to the bishop to e2, that wouldn't have been the case, so that's another reason why it was a good move. Okay, so yeah, then I castled, black castled, perfectly played. This opening is called the London system. A super solid opening where quick development and a central control is encouraged. Oh my goodness, Ruy Lopez, Queen's Gambit, London system. Okay. A super solid opening where quick development and a central control is encouraged. You can learn more about the London system with the Chess.com lesson. So you can click here, go to chess.com and learn from there. But we don't do this. This is a review of the Chessable course, of course. Chessable Course, of course. That's nice. Okay, so we go to the next variation. And it's review number 2. Let's say we have this opening position when black has boldly attacked the d4 pawn with the queen. What is the best course of action? I think I could move the knight on d2, but that would be against one of the opening rules to never move a piece twice in the opening. So I think it would be good to bring out the knight from g1 to f3. Serves purpose, center control, defending the pawn and attacking the queen. Let's see. It was correct. Knight g f3, and notice that it says knight g f3 because knight f3 only without the g would also say that the knight from d2 could have gone to f3. And then with this notation without the g, you don't know which knight. So it's always necessary to say if two knights can go to the same square, you need to say which one. And that's why we put the g. The best move on the board, the single move accomplishes 3 things. Develops a piece towards the center. Yeah, said it. Defends the pawn on d4 and attacks the queen, forcing the opponent to spend another move moving her. This way, white has a huge lead in development and a great start to the opening. All right. Then next variation. White has managed to seize the center with both central pawns, 1, 2. A great achievement in the opening. How should we continue our development? Here I would, I don't know if it's a developing move, but I would probably break a rule here. And that is, I would take the rook on a6, because the rook is worth 5 points and the bishop is worth 3 points. So if the knight or the pawn retakes my bishop, I would lose 2 points, 3 points, but in total 5 minus 3 is 2. In this case, I would be up 2 points. So I think I'm going to do that right now. Let's see. And it was correct, and hard work pays off. You finished learning this chapter. But before I would like to read what happened, this exercise was just to see if you were paying attention to black's moves. Yes, I did. If you answered something like the normal opening moves, knight f3, 1 knight c3, 1 bishop c4, or 1 bishop f4, good job. You spotted a good developing move that controls the center. However, when your opponent plays bad moves, you will need to delay your normal development in order to punish them. This is such a case. Since rooks are worth more than bishops, we happily trade our bishop 3 for the enemy rook 5, and we are already 2 points to the good. You now understand chess openings better than 99% of everyone who has ever played chess. Lovely. But the journey to mastery is long. You can learn about all the opening chess has to offer with this comprehensive chess.com lesson. And again. So, this was kind of interesting. I click on continue. And when we started the course, I said, let's see how the points go. Let's see if I can see the points here again. I scroll down. Cold Free Octopus didn't play. He's still on 989,000 points. And where do I place now? Before we started, I was on place 5,554, I think. And now I have double the points and moved up the ladder to place 1,840. Okay, so what does it tell me here? I could do the course settings, videos enabled, quiz after I learn. Study the key moves, review by learned order, 3 reps. Okay, I do the 3 reps, full depth of the depth setting, soft fail, retry on alternative good, that is nice, and schedule is chessable spaced repetition. For the quiz time limit, I put it to unlimited. I have unlimited time to think what is the best move. Here we have the time planner for this course. Now nothing is to do and review, works none. In 1 hour, none. In 4 hours, I have 28 variations to learn or to review. Yeah, because I just learned something, and if I learned it, the spaced repetition tells me when to do what, and this is all nice. And the learning status is I did not learn 32 variations, that's 47% of the course. Paused is nothing, I learned already 36%, which is 36 moves, variations, which is 53%. And mature and difficult. Mature probably means that I have them all in perfect memory. That is noticed by the Chessable move trainer if I repeatedly do them correct during the reviews, and difficult if I make errors, put wrong moves into the move trainer reviews. Then it says, okay, this is something where you have difficulties with. All right, so that's it for today. I'm next here due for spaced repetition 2 hours and 48 minutes, unless you learn something else. So next time I opening up and the 2 hours 48 will be done. I have the review in green or in another color, and it tells me how many reviews I have to do. And so the program makes sure that I don't forget anything. We are done with covering the opening. We watched 100% of the video. We did 12 out of 12 variations. Everything is good. Let's see into chat if something happened. No, it's all good. Then, yeah, thank you for following. I see there are viewers on. And yeah, I was very unexperienced with the Chessable courses I see, because I thought I could do this course in one take, like in 1 hour or 2 hours, but this was already part 2. We are now at 1 minute 50 into the session, and yeah, we need part 3 and maybe part 4 to cover all of the course. And it's not only a review, it's also going through the course with you. It's okay. I asked Chessable, we got the allowance to do so. It's a free course. I can show everything, which is also nice. And yeah, happy to have you with me on this learning journey.